Say no to crack, kids.
Willow came out in 1988. It was written by George Lucas and directed by Ron Howard. It is a great movie. Now, I'm a huge movie fan. Henry enjoys movies. There is a difference. He enjoys stuff that I don't enjoy and vice versa. He's big into like the military movies. He's a huge fan of like Top Gun, stuff like that. It's not my cup of tea. The one thing besides Jurassic Park that me and Henry has always had in common is our love for the movie Willow. Me and him's been quoting this movie to each other since we were young. It's ingrained in us since childhood, and Henry has gotten a physical copy on DVD. Now, they've released different formats of this movie over the years, and for some reason it's really hard to find at a decent price. I don't know why.
Yep.
I know
Blu-ray is upwards of 50, 60, 75.
I'm gonna check again. I know at the time that you got that, I think even the DVD was like what, $65 or something.
Yeah, I think she paid like $50 something.
Yeah. From what I understand is I think I've read that like in November of last year, just November 2019, Disney re-released it on Blu-ray again. So it actually might be cheaper. I haven't checked yet. I should have before when I was doing anything else to prepare for this.
Now you tell me.
Well, I just found out when I was researching. Anyway, so like we watched the movie again tonight, and this is one of those movies that you can watch 1,000 times, and there's always something new or something that you first noticed. For one, like I'm gonna point this out real quick, and then we'll get into the normal review thing. But like at the part where they're having the chase after the tavern, and both of the back wheels on the cart break off, and it's supposed to look like it's sliding. Henry noticed something that normally I would notice.
Yeah, I did.
Go ahead, you tell him.
Yeah, there's like a wheelbarrow wheel or some type of other wheel.
A stabilization wheel.
Right. It's just a one wheel on some type of little axle underneath the cart, where it gives you the image of that it is dragging on the ground, but it's not. It's actually still rolling on a single wheel underneath the carriage. And I think partly they did that because of the horses probably having trouble and the balance of it.
But then after he pointed out to me, I noticed the rut in the mud. There is an actual wheel in the middle going to the rut in the mud.
And I've never seen that.
I've never looked at it too much because I'm always like so distracted by looking at the little brownies and stuff.
Sure. The movie does draw you in.
Yeah, you were happening to sit, and I guess.
Well, I was just sitting at the right angle, and I was just, and I happened to, and I happened to be
eyes didn't have enough time to get distracted just yet.
Yeah, well, partly because I knew that we were doing this too, and I wanted to make sure that I was really trying to pay close attention, so we could really hit this review.
Yeah. So we came together, and I know I haven't put a lot of content on the channel lately. We are doing the quarantine thing for the COVID-19 epidemic, and Henry's been asking me for a while since he got the DVD, a physical copy, to watch it together, and actually today turned out to be a great day to do that. I was like, yeah, come on. And then he went and got it when he came back. I was like, hey, we'll watch the movie, and while it's fresh in our minds, since we're always talking about this movie, I was like, let's set up the camera, let's talk about it, see how it goes. So let us know if you do enjoy this type of format. And would definitely, I love movies. I would definitely be willing to do some more of these type videos. But let's pass it over to you. A lot of people get to hear me rant about Star Wars. Some of the people might see some other movie stuff that I have on the channel. But I don't think it's very hard. If you are subscribed or you do keep up with my channel, I'm into the fantasy adventure, the more some of the movies that never got big praise from the huge masses. A lot of them are considered cult classics. But for somebody like you, that don't take this wrong way, but sometimes during the wrong kind of movies for you has a hard time with your attention span, keeping you glued to the TV.
Right.
What separates Willow from other fantasy adventure movies, would you say? Because I know you tolerate watching
question.
Star Wars, but
I tolerate it.
You can
I
watch
do.
it,
You're
but
right.
you
You're
have
100%
no clue. You don't.
I don't.
You might absorb about 60% of what's going on.
Yeah. Like you said, enough to be dangerous.
But give it a day, and it's gone.
I think what that's a really good question, and it's weird that I don't, to be honest with you, because and I don't know if this is true, but this is a kind of a two-sided question. I think I'm going to answer your question with a question.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is, if you want to answer this in a statistical type of answer or not, but it's kind of like, if you love Star Trek, you automatically love Star Wars.
No.
And I figured you would say that. You're a Star Trek lover.
Most of the fan bases are very divided.
Divided.
And you have to choose one over the other. I appreciate them both for what they are.
And I know you do.
Star Wars is more fun. Star Trek's more analytical thinking, but it's...
Yes. And I figured you would answer that way. So I think that's what I'm coming from.
Right.
In a sense. I think what separated Willow from these other movies that we don't have so much in common about, and when I say common, I just mean a common interest.
Right.
Is the fantasy for me of Willow. It excites me more than the fantasy of battlefield galactic wars and you know what I'm saying?
I know.
So the fantasy to me, it's more appealing to me because to me it is more, this is going to sound crazy, but to me it is more logical to sense that this could be more realistic than what Star Wars is bringing me. Right, and I hate to use just Star Wars.
Well, I'm not trying to ask you specifically to compare it to any other properties.
Well, I know.
It's more or less you like watching Navy SEALs invade Baghdad movies.
I do.
SEAL Team 6s.
And I like that
new Netflix Extraction thing you were talking about.
Right, with Chris Hemsworth.
Into the military complex.
I am.
Saving Private Ryan's is more interesting than the space battles. And
maybe that has a lot to do with I grew up in a lot of military programs,
which makes sense.
I went to military academy.
I don't have an understanding of that on a personal level, so I can't be
So I'm thinking maybe that's where that stems from.
I'm sure. I'm talking about just from a fantasy, and I'm wanting to say that we referenced this earlier in a different conversation, but do you think it's got a lot to do with nostalgia and probably the age you watched it at, maybe?
I think so. I do. I that definitely comes into play.
It's a pretty It's a pretty easy story to follow.
It's a pretty easy story to follow for one.
It doesn't get too over complex.
It doesn't get too over complex.
Right. It's kind of like a video game. You collect this, you go to here, you collect this, you meet this person, you do this, and then you fight the end boss.
Yeah, there's not a lot of throwing you off, make you guess, and don't get me wrong, that is something that makes certain movies more what's the word I'm looking for, entertaining to certain audiences, and I do enjoy a good a mystery here and there, but for me, I like it when it's cut and dry and it's this is what we got to do and let's do it.
You don't have to put too much thought in it to be excited.
And entertained.
I have a theory on why one of the reasons you like this movie above most other types of movies.
Please. Okay.
They 100% don't mind being cheesy with the comedy.
No, they don't.
They don't hold back. They're not worried about being constrained. The mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
Go fetch me some eggs. I am hungry. And I stole the baby from a stupid daikini. Like the
I
same
think that's
stuff.
hilarious.
But I mean, it doesn't take itself too serious.
Idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, what, how can you not love
She turns into a goat, and her first words is like, "You idiot." You know?
I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
To me, that is witty.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Funny.
About the time that your ADD would kick in for you to pick up your phone, one of these lines
it grabs me again,
and then it gets your attention.
It grabs me again.
Correct.
Yeah.
As to where, like in Lord of the Rings,
if I could find a job, that does that, I'd be well off.
No, that's what I'm saying. Lord of the Rings, you got 25 minutes of them going across the hills on horses. They come across an encampment. They don't even say anything for 15 minutes. And
sure. Yes, but I do love the Lord of the Rings.
No,
but I don't love it enough to be like.
But
I want to know everything there is to know about this.
You enjoy it from a visual perspective, but you don't retain a lot of the Lord of the Rings.
Not the story.
There's too much of a gap between stuff going on for
you
to be able to stay invested in it.
There most definitely is.
In this movie, the story's simple. The visuals are beautiful.
Right.
Even with the dated effects, it appeals to the charm of the movie.
It does.
And it's just fucking funny.
It is funny. And a lot of people...
We're always quoting this movie to each other.
Always. But like you said, there are a lot of audience that probably does think it's cheesy But
I mean, like, it's a product of the 80s.
It is a product of the 80s.
We are a product of the 80s. We understand that there was a time in the 80s where, like, this wasn't considered corny. It was considered entertainment. It was considered fun.
Most definitely.
My 15-year-old that all he wants to do is play Fortnite and thinks everything that I do is gay or whatever you want to call it.
Well,
I apologize, but I mean, that's how the world works now. He would watch this and probably tell me how dumb it is. Probably
so. But you know what he's missing? Exactly what you said. The problem is this is a family-based movie.
Yes, it's not supposed to be Avengers Endgame.
It's not supposed to be.
It's not an epic. It's not north and south of you know what I mean?
No, but you know what? It's movies like movie. This. It is, and unfortunately,
and they don't make movies like this anymore.
They don't. And unfortunately, that is a sad thing, because it's movies like Willow, to me, that have been taken for granted, so to speak. Yes. You know, they don't get the credit that they deserve. To me, you can, if you're a true movie buff and you don't like Willow, there's something wrong with it.
That's what's funny. Is that, like, you know, you watch the reviews and what they say from, like, the 80s, and, you know, it was up against some competition when it was released in the theaters. It really was. But most of the reviews were about stuff that people at the time didn't really understand and never gave it a chance. Mm. Now you look back and, like, visual effect techniques that were never done before were done first in this movie. Like, they created some technology that, like, escalated to stuff we use now.
Yeah.
In movies because of this movie.
Exactly.
Like, every other George Lucas, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Willow, him and his friend filmmakers, when they had a problem or needed a visual effect done, ILM figured it out. Mm-hmm. And this was one of those. This was the first movie to use the morphine thing, which was done a few years later in the Michael Jackson video when they saw that they were able to use that effect. Excuse me. But, you know, Willow, to me, it's a lot of nostalgia, but it's also, like I said earlier, it's like one of those movies that, like, the older I get, the more I see certain aspects of the movie from, like, a different point of view, mm-hmm. but I still appreciate it.
Right.
Like, I see it different than I did at 5. I see it different than I did at 15. I see it different than I did at 20. At 26, I still appreciate it for what it is. I love the cheesy humor in it.
Yeah.
I can see where the vision was. And I could see where somebody took the time to meticulously make something that made sense. I still hold, like, from this movie wraps itself up better than most movies does. Except for the prophecy thing, which we'll have another video later.
Right. We discussed that.
We do discuss the fact that, like, technically the prophecy's never fulfilled, and the whole movie's about a prophecy of a baby that...
Right. Yeah.
But it's okay.
But it is okay. And now
unless
that I'm thinking about
unless
that...
the prophecy has some wiggle room, and it was like, because these people were protecting the baby, that's what... I don't know.
You had to kill the queen in order to protect the baby. I get it.
There's one.
But it could go either way. But it's still,
to me, that's lazy storytelling. Like
it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's very contradictory. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it contradicts itself.
No, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Because you can't really have one without the other.
So, who's your favorite character in the movie?
I really like them all, but if I had to, I would probably say my favorite character in the movie is the guy with that wears the
skull.
Yes,
he's badass.
He's badass. Like, I mean, he really is. That really is probably my...
No, the cool part about having...
Who's your favorite character?
My favorite character in the movie? Like, I feel like I should say Willow.
Yeah.
But I really like... When I was Jamie's age, my youngest son, it was probably Willow.
Yeah.
From a storytelling point of view, and from somebody that wishes they were a better filmmaker and could make films, and when it comes to like actual character progression over time, I actually had to say that it would have probably, as of today watching it, it's like really a mix-up between Val Kilmer or the princess lady.
Yeah.
Like, she did a really good job in this movie.
She did an excellent job.
Like, I never really paid attention to her character that much, like, in the past watching it.
Right.
And I kind of took a little extra time to pay attention to, like, the way that she acted, the way that she... Because, I mean, it becomes pretty apparent that I never noticed this when I was younger, that, like, after he takes her hostage, like, she lets him have her on that horse. Mm-hmm. It's not until, like, when she's like, well, you told me you loved me and stuff, and he's like, yeah, but that went away. And she's like, fuck it, and just jumps off the horse. Right. Like, she wasn't scared of his knife. She wasn't terrified that he was going to slice her throat. No. She was willingly going with him.
She was willingly going. And, you know,
and in
real life, she does.
Yeah, yeah. But, I mean, I never really picked up on that as a child. You know what I mean? No. You never, those nuances that until you're an adult and that you're in... know what love is or whatever. And, like, the way that, like...
I'm not sure what that is, but... Anyways.
The way that, like, when he's fighting, like, the big, the catapult over to Willow to help him and get some of the monster, and the way it keeps cutting to her watching
him.
Yeah.
She's falling in love with him.
Just the emotion in her face tells more than if she would have been speaking at the time. Right. And, like, from an artistic point of view and from, like, a story point of view.
You don't understand that.
Right. She acts so well with just her face, like, she doesn't even need to speak.
But as an adult, you know that kiss is coming after he slays the monster and falls down. And she
literally has, like, 20 lines in the whole movie.
I know. It's not very much, actually.
Mother, I'll find it.
Yeah.
I'll kick... coming from a slave... Yeah, I doubt that. I mean, like, she has these like one sentence lines spread out throughout the movie.
It's hard for me to say, to be honest with you, which character is my favorite in this movie, because actually I do love them all. Yeah,
it's hard to really kind of choose, because I mean, like, Val Kilmer. You had mentioned earlier before we watched this, like, The Saint and this movie are probably my two favorite Val Kilmer movies. Mm-hmm. I know you appreciate him for Top Gun as being Iceman.
I do, but he was also like 18 years old.
Well, I get that.
He was still young in his acting career.
Right.
You know.
But I mean, this wasn't long after Top Gun.
No, not too long at all.
I mean, it's.
But you can see a drastic change in his physical appearance.
From the time you meet him, like, you would think, like, if I was my age and this was the first time that I ever watched this movie, I would hate that character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you wouldn't be able to redeem him because, you know, you get old and you get an adult, you get...
Right.
First impressions mean a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call it? The character progression and the progress he makes over the story. And you can watch him, you know, like the scene where he, like, they're hiding in the grass and the baby grabs his finger and he's like, oh, I'm just happen to go that way too. Well, I'll walk with you as long as the lake. You know what I mean?
And
like
then,
stuff like that.
And then when they're hiding in the thing and Eric calls him out and says, he's nothing but a thief. He's not going to help you.
Yeah. Then he's like, oh, no, I'm loyal to
them.
Yeah. No,
I serve them.
Right. But you can see it. You can see it naturally. His character change over time. It's not like a forced thing.
And what changed him? Would you say? What would you say that changed Mad Mortigan in his ways? Because when they meet him at the crossroads and he's in the crow's cage, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You could definitely tell they were trying to portray him as somebody that you cannot trust.
Right. Yeah. No.
Somebody that is only out for himself.
Yes, I was about to say that exact same thing. I mean, like...
Would you say that it was Willow, or would you say that it was Laura Dannon?
I think it was the baby. And then I think that, like, after he had the dust on him and he told the girl he loved her, and then after being confronted about it, I think he started looking at her different, and he was starting to fall in love with her, too.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, like, it seemed irresponsible, but it was like it was meant for the Brownies to take the baby from him, for him to meet back up with them later on a different level.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because at that point when they meet back up with him in the tavern, he just still seems like the same old...
Oh, yeah, he's...
You know,
doing him
scandalous,
right.
You know, having...
Yeah.
You know, making...
Taking that lady's wife, or taking that man's wife, what was
Lug.
his name? Brutus or whatever?
Lug.
Yeah. Hey, meet Lug. Yeah, no, that was hilarious. Yeah. No, but like his character, it doesn't seem like a forced character progression.
No.
Like from where you start off in the crow's cage to like the very end where he looks like he's putting Willow up on the horse and him and the princess are going to raise the baby. It really does kind of seem like it was a natural thing and like he was a changed person. Mm-hmm. Like the acting in this, to me, I thought it was awesome.
You know, this, for a 2-hour movie, which the average movie is probably about 90 minutes, an hour and a half.
Usually hour and a half. Well, most of your blockbusters now push about 2.
Yeah, now. Yes, you're correct.
But it's funny, I didn't even realize it was that long. It don't seem like it's that long.
No, because it doesn't, and I think that speaks volumes for the movie itself.
And see, that's what part of the
you know how some movies that you watch that are decent, good movies, but if they're 2 hours long, after about an hour in, you're like...
And see, that's crazy that we say that, though, because if you look up the reviews from 1988, a lot of the problems with the movie, people said it had pacing issues. And I don't see that.
I don't either.
I think everything flows right into the next thing. So there's times in movies like this where you have to take a break to breathe, to get reevaluated what the situation is. And it's those moments where they have time for the baby to hold Mad Mortigan's finger.
And I feel like they did a good job of that.
He's
they slow
the
it down.
And like Willow realizes that he can do magic with the wand and he gets stuck up on the tree limb.
Right.
Like if you skip that, then you wouldn't understand why later he's having a little bit of a hard time.
Exactly.
He's starting to believe in himself.
Exactly.
The more he does it, the more he's believing in himself, but it's a character growth thing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and which I have a hard time because, taking this back a little bit, like you said, with us as a kid watching this, you don't see that and you don't learn to appreciate that.
Right.
So and I don't know if maybe it's the times. The times are different with movies and making movies and things like that. So I'm actually in shock that if some of these critics were bad mouthing pacing issues, and I don't. Obviously, they were as an adult watching this film.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little bit surprised that they couldn't pick up on that or couldn't see the exact same.
You know, a lot of times in movies, the way they're written, you got like a main character, maybe two, that actually have what they consider a full character arc.
Mm-hmm.
After watching this again tonight, I realized that even side characters come full circle around with character arcs, like the Eric guy.
Right.
Left him in the cage, meet up with him by chance later.
Mm-hmm. And ends up playing a significant role.
Brings his army. He ends up dying, but he dies for a cause, and he's proud to die next to Mad Mardigan.
Right.
In battle, honorably.
Right.
To stand for something.
Yeah.
Like, he had a character arc. The princess had a character arc. The Azriel, whatever, I keep saying her name wrong. She had a character arc. The brownies had a character arc.
Most definitely.
They were obnoxious little shits to begin with.
Right.
And then when they had the chance to go home right after the lake, they're like, nah, this is much more fun.
Right.
Without them, they wouldn't have been able to get an army to where they were going.
Exactly.
You know, everybody had an integral part, and it wasn't just like forced for the sake of being forced. It was like all of these characters needed to be where they were at, act the way they did for the story to flow and progress to get to the ending.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see that a lot, even with like bigger movies anymore. And I really appreciated the fact that they took the time to make sure everybody had some type of big payoff.
Yeah.
Whether it was one of the little brownies, whether it was, you know, everybody sacrificed something but gained something, or,
mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's not something you see in a lot of stuff anymore.
No,
like
it's not.
Taking the time for characters to be actually fleshed out.
Sure. They give them a chance to build.
You know, nowadays, anything that they decide to throw money at is, you know, oh, well, we'll get to this character in the sequel if there is one.
Right.
You know, this was a start to finish, wrapped up story. If you take it for face value and what's on the screen, to me, it's like a perfect fantasy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hope they do end up doing something else with the property.
I do too.
I would enjoy it, but if they don't, I will find solace in knowing at least they didn't fuck it up, and I do have this movie.
Right.
They didn't leave it on a cliffhanger. They didn't leave it to where it's like, well, what happened to... If you take it for face value, you can say everything was wrapped up really nice with a bow at the end.
Right, yeah. And it does do that. For me, anyways.
Yeah. No, and it's... Nothing's made like that anymore.
No.
There's always like a in-credit thing that plants that doubt that...
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, there's more to it. Da, 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 da.
And then, you know...
Sure.
All of the Indiana Jones movies were technically made to be more like standalone movies.
Mm-hmm.
If they, you know, especially back then, if they announced they were making another one, that's awesome if you were a fan.
Mm-hmm.
If they never made another one, you would have been happy with what you got.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's how they used to make movies. Now everything's supposed to be these huge cinematic universes, or everything's made with the intention on, if it makes a profit, we'll make another one. Make sure that, like, somebody finger twitches when they were supposed to be dead in the end credits.
Well,
that way they can come back if they need them to.
I think what the problem is what we're seeing here is the passion and the love for making something come to life.
Yes.
And versus this has got to be a total hit and it's going to make $1 billion.
Well, you know, I hold to this, and I mean, I might be wrong, but I think that people making movies nowadays have it easy.
Totally.
If they forget something, or if something don't match up right, they can go in and digitally fix it. This was shot on film.
That's right.
What they ended up with is what they ended up with, and you had to manipulate. You had a certain amount you could manipulate things, but you had to make it work. You had to make it right. On the day you were there to shoot that scene, You took 12 shots of the same scene. You could use the best one. You could fix it in editing. But I mean, like, it was up to you to figure that out. Nowadays, they can go in and digitally, like, remake a whole character, like, a totally different character if they want to.
Yeah.
Change their personality. They can, I mean, you can add somebody later that wasn't even in the shot. It's crazy. I mean, you couldn't do that back then.
No.
You had to actually get a performance on film from an actor that knew what they were doing, knew how to work with people.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I hear a ton of horror stories about Val Kilmer on sets of movies, but I want to say I don't remember hearing too much about him having a hard time on the set of this movie, but that might have been because he was falling in love with the chick that plays
right.
the.
And you know, it's funny that they both said they had a hard time getting it right.
Yeah.
Whenever their line, like he was saying that he actually forgot something. Like every time he would kiss her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he would forget his lines, and it's weird that
Willow. What would you rank Willow? Give it a score. A 2020 score.
Ooh. I would give it a solid. I would give it a solid 8.6.
I was going to say 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I would give it an 8. I think that holds up.
I do too.
Like, I could definitely, like, throw this movie on to watch with you. I could definitely, if I, for some reason, felt bored, could watch this by myself. I could watch it with my children.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't feel like, oh, God, I'm watching Willow again.
I know.
I wouldn't have
I never feel that way when I watch it.
No.
Yeah, I never feel that way when I watch it.
I agree. Alright, well, we appreciate you listen to us ramble on about Willow. We've been wanting to talk about this for a while. We figured we would share our views and
in the midst of the pandemic.
The midst of the quarantine pandemic. Yeah, so if you enjoyed this, let us know. There might be some other movies that I have around that Henry hasn't watched since he was younger, or he didn't give a really, a real chance the first time or something, that we could possibly watch together and then talk about afterwards and see if his views at being 35 has changed some.
I wish I could tell you they had. No, seriously, I don't know.
But, yep, we're gonna get out of here for now, and don't forget, not long after this is posted, we're gonna have a conversation about the possible sequel to Disney Plus. I was gonna talk about the books. There was a book series that George Lucas and Chris Claremont that did a bunch of the X-Men comics. But after looking online, they had really bad reviews. Everybody said they were hard to read. They didn't make no damn sense. There was 3 of them that came out between 95 and 2000. And they killed Mad Mardigan and Sasha.
Is it Sasha?
You were saying it earlier.
I was.
Anyway, they killed them off like in the first book really early on, and so like I didn't do too much more research on that. I initially wanted to talk about the book, but we have a whole other video coming out about expectations and what we'd like to see for any future stuff to do with the property of Willow. So we'll catch you in the next one.
Say no to crack, kids.
Smoke crack.